might be the consult versus inform line. So I think I'm gonna have to just drop it with that one and leave it there and say I'm now unsure on the War Powers Act. I was firmly in the he's followed the War Powers Act camp, but since I don't have the War Powers Act legislation in front of me, I can't quote it. But I'll go ahead and leave it there, Gary.
Is there an argument to make that it's beyond your description to the point where it would affect the mission? If they went to Congress first, and then there were all these public discussions and hearings and everything, it telegraphs too much to the enemy, and it indicates what the president feels needed to be done at that moment.
Yes, that would fall under the commander-in-chief power. I will grant you, that's why I said my idealistic side. Because I had a conversation with Abby yesterday, fully recognizing that the wish that we had that discussion is an impractical wish.
Thank you, Marshall. Alan, are you with us today? It's too bad.
Oh, yes, sir, Gary. What's up?
Go ahead. Did you want to jump in on this? Or?
Well, you guys are doing very well. It's not much I can do. The same thing, Lucky, a lot of people said it wasn't successful, but I think the news comes from Iran. It was a very successful attempt. I knew sooner or later it's going to happen because there's no other way. These mullahs got to go. Back to you, sir.
Let me just ask you very briefly, Alan. I know you're busy minding your store there. I'm sure you saw what Reza Pahlavi had to say today. Is there any chance that what he articulated will actually occur?
Of course it is, yes. He's already had all the plans set up, but we still have pockets. Still, there are some element involved with this regime which they extremely get paid. We know there is about 8, 9 TV channel in Los Angeles which they're still getting paid by this regime, and it's throwing rock at, but people are fed up with it. He's ready for it. He still does not want. He's not seeking any kind of office position or anything. He says from the beginning, he's just there to help and let the transaction go smooth. And as far as his plan is already said, there won't be any vacuum, there won't be any problem. It's just a matter of when Khamenei is going to get hit. There is a news he got hit. There's a news now he's not got hit. He had already few, tapes he sent out. But we all know, most Iranian, they know he has like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 copies, which is put in the face, and then they come in the front in any of the situations. So, but all the news is good from Iran. The only thing they don't have is complaining. It's the internet, and it's very hard to do, connection with them, and they just want to know the family, the friend outside, they are doing okay. That's just about it.
Thank you, Alan. It's interesting that you mentioned that there's a television station in Los Angeles that people say is being funded by the Iranian regime. And I don't know whether if they are, or if it's direct, because it would seem that would be in violation of the sanctions. But I can say, from personal experience, this makes me recall during the wars in Iraq, there's a very large expatriated community of Iraqis in Detroit. And there was a newspaper there, a weekly, that was published to serve that community. And that newspaper was funded by Saddam Hussein. And interestingly, it wasn't just the content that was being supportive of that regime, but because the reporters were in and out of the community talking to people, they were able to telegraph back
to the Iraqi officials, who in the United States who still have family in Iraq was supporting the resistance to Saddam Hussein. And the whole idea for that was to shut people up here in the United States so that they would not exercise their First Amendment rights, because if they did, then the publisher of the newspaper would notify the government and put their families back in Iraq at risk. I don't know whether that's going on with this television station in Los Angeles, but it's pretty interesting and something actually worthwhile of some investigation based on what Alan just said. Anson, I know you got a lot to say about strategically what occurred and the results and what comes next, so the floor is.
Well, I want to first weigh in on is it constitutional, and I particularly want to try to address Scott and the millions and millions of people in the United States that will agree with Scott's assertion. But I don't know the answer, and I would suggest that nobody on this stage or in this room knows the definitive answer. The only way to get a definitive answer is whether something is constitutional or not is run it up the flagpole and let the Supreme Court make a decision. So Trump is a wild man, and he's doing a bunch of stuff, and Democrats have resorted to the courts to try to slow him down, and they're being successful in many cases doing that. And some of the things have gone to the Supreme Court in a pretty quick fashion. So why don't we somebody sue the administration right now and see if a court will establish a restraining order preventing the use of any offensive weapons against Iran until Congress declares war, period. And then let that work its way up the flagpole and let the Supreme Court decide. Now, is that a joke? No, it's really not a joke, because I am sick and tired of listening to this argument since I first joined the military in 1965. Is it constitutional or not? Is it not constitutional to order the use of military force for whatever reason against anybody without an act of Congress? If that is the case, then we can save trillions and trillions of dollars, because we don't need to forward deploy anything. We can pull back and turn them into tin cans, all of our carrier battle groups, all of our ballistic missile submarines, all of our, just pull it all back, and we turn into an island of America. And when somebody decides to go to war, if we think it's necessary, we can do what we did in World War I and World War II and rearm the world and ultimately win the war. Think that's going to work in today's world? That's laughable. So our whole military posture of being forward deployed, why do we do that? Because the basic element of our defense of the United States of America is deterrence. And in today's world, particularly, I mean, you can even say that offensive action against a computer network in China that is raising hell in America with its aggressive action, is it an act of war to offensively counter that computer system in China? Is that an act of war? I mean, these kinds of discussions can go on ad infinitum, and they have. We need to make some kind of decision in this country, and somebody ought to get it to the Supreme Court. I don't trust Trump to make the decision. I don't trust any single politician to make the decision, but we have a process to determine whether something is constitutional or not why are we afraid to use it? Now, was it successful? I don't know. I know that the Iranian nuclear program has been set back for decades just based upon the little I know about what's been damaged so far. But nobody, even the Iranians don't know the extent of damage underground from the bunker busters. And we're not going to know until somebody actually digs down into those chambers to see how badly they were destroyed. Now, they had 900 pounds of 60% enriched uranium. Where was that stuff at 1840 Eastern Daylight Time on June 21st? Israelis, the IAEA, and the United States thinks it was at Isfahan. Isfahan got obliterated on the surface by 30 Tomahawk cruise missiles from a Trident submarine. The other 14, the Nassan and Fedor, were bombed underground, and all we see right now is holes in the ground where the bombs went in. And we don't even see any collapse of the ground, the surface. So you would think if they had massive caverns underground and those caverns were destroyed by the bombs, you think you would see a hole in, a big shallow hole in the ground where the earth filled up those destroyed caverns. But we don't see any evidence of that. But my guess is that those three sites are not going to be used to do anything nuclear for years, if not decades. Now, are we going to have to play whack-a-mole and chase them around to see if they're trying to secretly build a bomb someplace else? Sure. What can we do to find the 900 pounds of enriched uranium? In case any of you are wondering, it takes about 5 or 6 kilograms of 90% enriched uranium to make one Hiroshima-sized bomb. So that's enough uranium that for seat of the pants calculation, you could build 50 or 60 bombs that were all Hiroshima size, which are pretty small, 20 kilotons, but you could build 50 or 60 bombs with that. Where is that stuff? We don't know. Do some Iranians know where it is? Probably, but we're going to have to, and we're not going to be able to fly airplanes over the site with radiation monitors to figure it out, because it's too hard to detect uranium-235 in such a manner. You're certainly not going to do it from space either. The only way you're going to definitively know is by putting boots on the ground and literally go in with Geiger counters and see what you can find. What next? Iran can quit, which it doesn't look like they're going to do, meaning they agree to go to the negotiating table and negotiate to never again attempt to enrich uranium or build a bomb. They can continue to play whack-a-mole with Israel in hopes that Israel is going to get tired of playing whack-a-mole, and they might keep doing that, or they can go big and try to strike against American forces and others in the Middle East. If what happened in Qatar today is sustained, then maybe they went big. Now, we've got 2 carrier battle groups, and the Trident submarine that launched 30 cruise missiles against Isfahan has a loadout capability of 154 such missiles. So we've got about 120 of those kinds of missiles at least. You're never going to find a Trident submarine, so they'll never know where that one's coming from or when. So we've got a lot of arsenal, a lot of firepower there, and we have two carrier battle groups with a few 100,000 pounds worth of explosive ordnance that can be used as well, plus what the Israelis have. Can we use any of that stuff in order to stop Iran if they go big? Probably not. Everybody would argue, because there's the quagmire. And the other thing is my comment on Trump saying that on national TV, there we go with his bloviation, his exaggeration, his bullshit, and it does nobody any good to say that their nuclear weapons program was obliterated. That is just flat out wrong, stupid. The basic answer, we don't know, and very, very few people, if any, know for sure exactly how badly it was degraded. But degraded, you bet your ass it was degraded, and it's going to be a hell of an effort over years, if not decades, for Iran to get back where they were with almost arguably enough uranium to build 50 bombs, and just figuring out how to build them and launch them being the only restraint against them, which is a danger to the world and the United States that I hope to hell we never see again.
So one of the other potential responses, and I know you were focusing on the military, but I just want to add to your excellent analysis, Anson, is what they're really good at, which is not militarily responding directly, but through terrorism.
That's exactly, and what I forgot to say that, and I think I said it in my email to you, no doubt, as long as this regime is still around, unless they bring back the Shah or something like that, there is no doubt that they're going to do everything they can, no matter whether they negotiate to end their nuclear, all three of the options that I provided, and any other options that anybody in here wants to come up with, they are going to continue to use terrorism to the fullest extent that they can possibly do it. And how to combat that, and that's in playing whack-a-mole, you just slap the mole on the cheek and he's ready to bite your hand off if he can get at it using terrorism. So we reignited that beehive. I mean, the beehive has always been there, but now we're going to be in a posture that people are going to start thanking God we have the Patriot Act again, or something like that. So that's a consequence that anybody should have seen coming, and they'll never give that up until we have a regime a la the Shah's regime, or maybe the prime minister that was democratically elected that was overthrown by the Brits in the United States back in 1953.
The thing to take into consideration when it comes to a potential, and thank you for that, Anson, terrorist attack type response from Iran, is that it doesn't necessarily happen immediate. I note that when the Iranian regime was offended by Salman Rushdie's book, because they saw it as blasphemous, and they put out a fatwa and put millions of dollars on his head. It took over a decade before somebody, sadly, finally very seriously attacked him in New York State. So it's not necessarily an immediate response. And we could get lulled into, you know how it is, we do it here because we reflect what's going on in the news, and the news kind of doesn't reflect but drives the body politic of the nation. We go from one crisis to another, and this will soon be forgotten if there's a period of quiet. But that's a danger if we forget this possibility of terrorist attack, because it could happen in a day, a month, a year, a decade, but it could still happen later down the line, and that's something worth noting.
There's one other point that I want to make, Gary, and I sent Gary an email before the room, and I was critiquing his posted conversation with Boaz. But I want to make one other very positive point. I have expressed in here for several years my deep concern about the professionalism of our armed forces, the collisions at sea, a military operation to withdraw from Afghanistan. I mean, I could go on and on about how the military actions have disappointed me so greatly. Today, I can finally point to one, and I said to Gary in the email, one last point. For the first time since 9/11, I'm extremely proud of the B-2 and Trident systems, along with the men and women that have made them work over the last 40 years, always training for such an event just seen. Thank God our military worked this time around. I can see in my mind right now what it looked like in the control room aboard that Trident submarine on the evening of June 21st. That scene was 40 years in counting of relentless and never-ending training. Well done, I loudly say today.
Thank you, Anson. And by the way, he's referring to a conversation I recorded with Boaz, which is linked to in the chat above, and a previous one, which was recorded with immediately after the attack with Avi Perry, also linked to in the chat above, although you're going to have to scroll way up because that's a very vibrant chat that you are invited to join. Abby.
Hi, Gary. So I'm going to try to be brief with this. I wanted to comment a little bit on what Scott was talking about and the War Powers Act and try to give some historical perspective on it. If we could take ourselves back to the late 60s, early 70s and the Vietnam War and the position our country was in, and after Nixon expanded the Vietnam War into Cambodia and Laos, Congress determined that they wanted to put limits on us committing forces abroad. So the War Powers Act of 73 it passed, and it passed, by the way, over Nixon's veto. And it called for as Scott was explaining, the consulting and reporting to Congress on the use of armed forces with respect to foreign hostilities. It requires that there's a termination of the military action that the president would initiate unless Congress approves an authorization within a 60 or 90-day period. It requires the president at that point to withdraw forces. Now, as Scott alluded to it, and we could talk about circumstance after circumstance of Democrat and Republican administrations and presidents that have taken actions to circumvent and find an endgame around the constitutional requirements as well as the War Powers Act. With respect to Clinton, which we have three circumstances where Congress refused to give authorization to him. The deployment that he had of troops in Haiti in 94, the troops in Bosnia in 96, and the air war in Yugoslavia in 99. He acted anyway. In 86, Reagan ordered airstrikes on Libya, as Scott was talking about, in the retaliation of the bombing of the Berlin nightclub. I don't know if you remember that, where a lot of American servicemen used to go. And he conferred with congressional leaders, but he didn't seek any kind of vote to authorize it. As I look at this, I think a lot of the Iraq, the decision by Clinton 2 years before 9/11 to go into Iraq with almost really similar fact pattern of having advisors telling them that there were weapons, at the time, weapons of mass destruction, and the concern that he had to go in and it was an existential threat, knowing also that the way to resolve it was with the bombing. In that situation, I think it it's similar. Iraq was resisting the access by the UN inspectors. Sound familiar? Which what we have with Iran, and him being fearful of, at the time, Saddam Hussein's, belligerence, let's call it, and that the possibility that he'd use the weapons against his own people, that Clinton decided to have airstrikes. I mean, we can just go through the list. We can go all the way back in time to our early presidents and work our way through administration after administration and centuries of this act by presidents. I do want to say, and I'm not going to go all in on all of these different episodes, but I know that with respect to Obama, that he made the choice with Gaddafi, and his intent was to overthrow the regime, which we don't know if that's what the U.S. intent is here. And he claimed there was no need for congressional authorization for his actions under the War Powers Act. We know what happened after that. We have ISIS-aligned groups. We had dangerous organizations that took over substantial parts of that territory, and the U.S. basically walked away. Obama at the time claimed it was a national security and interest, and didn't have the need, and it was his power as a chief executive. I do also want to say that Congress still retains the power through appropriations, through military appropriations, to cut off funds should they be against a conflict. They're still, in our separation of powers, the ability of Congress to pull the purse strings on certain conflicts. So they're not completely devoid of power when this happens. But with respect to the present action, I think you see hardcore far-right Republicans against it, and then you see moderate Democrats in support of it. Steny Hoyer, Josh Gottheimer, the usual suspects came out in support of what Trump is doing, and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Massey against him. So I think you're going to see that split. I think this is necessary. I think this is an existential threat to the world. I think it's completely justified. We've had enough attacks on physical U.S. troops by Iran and its proxies. We've had attacks on shipping vessels. We've had threats on our soil. We've had assassination attempts against our Secretary of State, our members of our cabinet, our president, the Saudi ambassador as he was on U.S. soil, the Israeli ambassador as he was on U.S. soil. I mean, we could just go on and on this bad world actor and how they have challenged the United States and threatened the United States. We have thwarted numerous cells within the United States. Our intelligence community have over the years uncovered various threats and plots, and I'm sure we're going to see many more. But if you look at what was the justification in the other acts by other administrations, this meets, in my opinion, this meets that level, just as the others were feeling that our country was at risk and at a security risk. So along with, and I haven't even gotten into standing there with our ally and assisting our ally who has assisted us with intelligence, all kinds of military support as a steadfast and strong ally in the region. And I think that last thing I'm going to say is it's going to be interesting to see the bedfellows here as the attacks are coming in at Qatar and other Gulf states. They've already helped Israel in deflecting and going, using the air resources to go after some of the ballistic missiles and what's been shot at Israel. We've seen the Gulf nations, but both in April when the first attack came from Iran to Israel, and now from Jordan and Saudi, the Emirates, and I mean, I think you're going to see more and more. Even Syria this time has helped. So the direct attacks at the U.S. bases into countries like Qatar are going to be very interesting. How the response is from those nations and how many friends Iran has in the region. And I'm going to say they're not batting 1,000 on this one. So I'll leave it at that. But I think it's justified. It's got precedent, lots of precedent. You name the administration, and we can find one. As I said, we can go all the way back to Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Polk, Pierce, Roosevelt again, Wilson, Kennedy, Johnson, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Obama, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump again. So there you go. I'm done. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Abby. I don't know whether there was a connection ever established between the two assassination attempts on the president and Iran, but we do know that Iran has threatened to assassinate the president of the United States.
I do know, because I've been around Mike Pompeo enough to know that he cannot go anywhere without security all around him, and he is still at risk for the strike on Soleimani.
Yes, they have not forgotten Soleimani, and as I pointed out earlier, it's not unusual for them to wait a long time until they feel the opportunity is correct for them to hit a target. John Bolton, for example, is also on that list. So thank you, Abby.
Hey, can I respond real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Abby. That was very articulate and helpful. And I'm largely in agreement with Abby's analysis. Like, I think you can find precedent for this presidentially. I think she's completely right about that with both parties. The question is it good precedent constitutionally? There's a book, a legal scholar, I think he's from Yale. I've heard him speak a few times, Harold Coe. And he wrote a book called The National Constitution, the National Security Constitution in the 21st Century. A really interesting scholar. And I think he's at Yale Law School. But he basically argues that this is just continual, with both parties, it's a continual overgrowth of just deference to the executive on national security issues. And increasingly, with every administration, it gets worse. And I mean, I think, and maybe it's not, I mean, I think we should just need to be honest and say, I liked what Anson said. It'd be great if we had an actual Supreme Court decision. Or as a country, if we just say the founders just got it wrong.
I think SCOTUS is avoiding it, by the way, Scott. I think they've always avoided it.
Yeah, right. And I think, that's an interesting debate. Did the founders, were they just off on this one, right? Was it just impractical what they imagined, right? I think they imagined that the deliberative
body... Well, the situation then was different than it was today. The art of communication, where anything that you're doing today is instantaneously telegraphed overseas, halfway around the world even, to a potential enemy, which in those days you would be able to strike at any rate with the kind of immediacy that we see today. So the playing field then was completely different than the playing field today. So that does not necessarily mean that they got it wrong. It just means that the landscape has changed between.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree that that's an argument, right? There are people, there are good scholars on all sides of this, right? And there are people that are not persuaded by that argument. But I think it's a good argument, right? I think that you could just say it's impractical, right? That maybe they didn't get it wrong, but for the 18th century, it was practical, but now it's not. And we just need to invest all this power in the executive. I for one, I don't like it. And it's not a partisan thing, right? And again, this is not me rendering a judgment on its effectiveness. I think Abby's case for the justification of this is a pretty good one. But this stuff gives me the willies, man. I'm an old school guy. I don't think the founders were wrong then. I don't think they're wrong now. So I think we should take pause. But I'm old fashioned. You know me.
So, Abby, did you want to respond to Scott's response?
I mean, Scott, I hear you, and I believe in textualists, and I don't disagree with you, but I think that if you put such fetters on the executive branch to decide in matters of emergency and to expedite when it's necessary and it's exigent situations, then you really limit our strength in the world. And I think in this scenario, again, I don't think he did anything different than any other president has done. And again, we're also a country of precedent, and we've created this precedent. So unless Congress enacts a law that enhances the 1973 legislation to be much more limited in how it's construed and specific in its construction, I think that it will continue this way. If you look at articles, you will see Republicans attacking Obama and Clinton. You can read all kinds of interesting law review articles about it, and the Republicans going to town on those presidents, and you're seeing Democrats go to town on this one. I think that the Constitution is a living and breathing document, and this was something that morphed into this power in the executive branch. And I want to know that my country can act when it needs to act. And also, I worry about the trust in Congress. I worry about people lurking around the halls of Congress like Ilhan Omar that I don't feel have the best interests of the country. And there may have been some concern with the security of this, and that's something to think about and maybe consider. It may not be new that we've had that issue, but I definitely think we have that issue.
I think, yeah, I was thinking as the two of you were talking of the circumstances have been slightly different. Let's say there is and it doesn't necessarily have to be Iran, but there's a rogue state out there, and our intel says that an attack from that state on the homeland of the United States is imminent. And the president gets into the Situation Room, talks to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the others who advise him or her in the future in the Situation Room, and they say, this nation of X is about ready to launch a nuclear attack on the United States. It's absolutely firmed up. We have the information right here. There's no doubt about it. Here you are, Mr. or Madam President. Okay, let's go to Congress. You can't under that circumstance, in my opinion. I think everybody would agree. So I think philosophically, Scott makes a point, a good point. But in when you talk about real life, maybe that's not necessarily possible any longer, depending on the set of circumstances. In this set of circumstances, maybe you could have gone to Congress first, maybe not. I tend to lean in the direction of maybe not. But I think an argument can be made, maybe so. But in the circumstance, the theoretical that I just tossed out, absolutely not. So I would rather than my president, knowing that New York City, for example, is going to be targeted by a nuclear attack tomorrow, doesn't wait until after tomorrow to get the permission from Congress to do something about it. Dominic.
Wow. Hey, Gary. Happy Monday. Very interesting weekend. Listen, the comments so far are very comprehensive. I am persuaded by Abby. And one of the elements that intrigued me about I guess you might call it subtext of what she was discussing, was this idea that there's a level of disingenuousness in the public square. One, as relating to what is inherently a political combat. I mean, domestically, posing as earnest intellectual back and forth. And to me, that is sort of the rot that has infected our public square. That there is a sense that people are intentionally misrepresenting what appears to be reality as but is instead simply narrative projection. Now, it was pointed out that we have these actors, political actors in Congress, and Abby made the point that ours is probably the only country in which the saboteur has an equal opportunity to become a representative within our government as the most patriotic person. It is interesting that our democracy, our republic, has that risk. If you look at one-party states like China or Russia, Iran, the likelihood of there being a avowed opponent of the existence of the government or of the nation itself being accepted as a representative is nearly zero. I mean, I doubt that there's going to be a representative elected in Iran who publicly opposes the Ayatollah. Maybe you can find one, Gary, I don't know. I doubt that there's a clan of representatives in the Communist Party of China who publicly opposes executive decisions of the part of the Communist Party or the government, although I assume that they're the one and the same thing. So that's a risk that we have that is ignored, I think, both by intellectuals and observers in general, that we do have rats in the henhouse, or foxes, whatever you want to go. We have, in fact, I was just watching the news. They were talking about the likelihood of Iranian cells having been a part of the millions of people who entered the country over the past 4 years under the open borders policy of the Biden administration. And they were trying to calculate the likelihood of the risk associated with Iranians intentionally entering the country illegally through the southern border. I don't know of another nation that accepts that risk. We accepted it, So I have, I don't know if that makes me old school or new school, but I think that we forget the idea that there are permanent wars. In modern political history, there is this concept of permanent war. And we seem to think that everything is impermanent, that there aren't permanent enemies, like, say, ideology. Okay, like, say, this gets back to Samuel Huntington. But we do have permanent cultural enemies. I think China is a cultural enemy. I think Islam is a cultural enemy. But Sammy Huntington thinks so too. He's a famous.
Yeah, with all due respect, Huntington was just flat wrong.
Well, I disagree with you. First, he wasn't wrong.
Yes, he was. He presupposed the world. Dominic,
He wasn't
the
wrong.
world in which
He
we
was a
couldn't.
theorist who
His presupposition was a world in which we couldn't get along, which isn't true.
It is true.
Not history. No, it's not.
Of
It's
course
not
it's true.
historically accurate.
Of course it's
Historically
true.
accurate in the Middle East, maybe over the last 500
I'll
years,
give you
over the last 1,000 years,
I will
just not
give you
true.
the floor. You can have it, but that's not a legitimate argument.
Of course, it's a legitimate argument. You want to look at the last 500 to 700 years of the Middle East, fine, you're right. You want to look at the last 500 years of the Middle East, you're not right.
Fine, go ahead. Here you go. You can rub it.
So I'm going to go back, Dominic, to your initial comment about you used the term disingenuous. It caused me to think about Chuck Schumer. And I looked up the exact quote, his reaction to this attack on Iran. Here's Chuck Schumer, quote, "No president should be allowed to unilaterally march his nation into something as consequential as war with erratic threats and no strategy." And he emphasized that the operation should not have occurred without congressional input. Fine. Well, I also look back at his criticism of Mr. Biden's unilateral attacks in Syria and on the Houthis in Yemen. I know there are those who say that nobody did anything about the Houthis. Biden didn't do anything about the Houthis, but that's not true. He did. And here is the full extent of Schumer's criticism of those unilateral actions. Quote, close quote. So there you go. Does that help you make your point,
Yeah.
Dominic?
There you go.
Okay, thank you, Dominic. Dave.
Yeah, great discussion as always, Gary. I think it's more important than ever, given the fact that on the one hand, this bombing by Trump and our great military, which I have the utmost respect for, the immense power that we wield and the way in which we can wield it. We also have to respect the people that wear that uniform, the families that put their sons, daughters' lives, as well as the wives, the children of the personnel who have to effectuate these orders. And, we just saw recently, I brought up in the case of the blowback, the ability of Iran to wage asymmetrical response to these bombs is not in kind the way their ability to launch similar B-2 technology at us or at Israel. So, and actors on the world stage, Gary, unfortunately, are going to bypass UN charters of engagement in war, just in the same vein that some have argued Israel breached certain UN resolutions or laws with regard to who was affected and killed by the very strikes that they meted out on Tehran and killing a lot of their nuclear scientists and leadership. There was evidence that media personnel are also killed, which under UN charters are to be exempt from acts of aggression and war because they're innocent civilians. So we see the murkiness of defending one's nation with regard to the threat that is directed at them. In this case, obviously, the perceived, accurate or otherwise, that Iran has enriched uranium to the level that was rising to the level of being nuclear and deployable. Or not necessarily deployable, but nuclear and ready to be used in a way that would be a massive existential threat to Israel and, of course, to our interests in the region. I think our Constitution, our founding fathers, as imperfect a document as that was, as imperfect a document that was in light of what was governing our nation at the time, economically and otherwise, I think they got it right from the standpoint of they didn't like seeing King George wielding this massive might on the colonies against the enemies of the colonies, against the enemies of the crown. France had a similar king that did similarly. So I think that the founders got it right from the standpoint of they didn't want to have unchecked immense power. And of course, the founding fathers could not look forward in the future and see the creation of the nuclear bomb, see the creation of massive war machinery that is beyond the scope of what they were probably able to even conceptualize. Talking about muskets and horses and ships and things like that. And so, fast forward through the campaigns, and I think the most salient example of that, and that was honored to the T, was Roosevelt with regard to World War II and the power Congress wielded in checking his ability to just dive right into World War II. Even though the evidence was great, even though Churchill was lobbying, we saw, the way in which Nazi Germany was running roughshod all over Europe. And yet, because of World War I and the loss of life and the way in which we entered into that engagement, politicians and Americans were fatigued. They didn't want to go back into campaigns like that. And Roosevelt, the neutrality acts that were passed in Congress, set Roosevelt's ability. He honored those acts, and he's on Mount Rushmore, or at least I think he is, or I think his cousin is. And what I'm trying to say to that, Gary, is that there was not a more existential threat to the free world than Hitler's army, right? And so does Iran's threat absence the evidence? And of course, we have our government, our president, commander-in-chief, debating the evidence with the very people he put in power to tell them what the evidence is. And that I'm speaking of is Tassie Gabbard and her running her CIA intelligence and everything else. So, again, are we calling upon our men and women in uniform to act out aggression with absolute certainty? And that remains to be seen, Gary. And, irrespective of allyship with Israel, I think ultimately we could have waited a little bit longer. I think that with regard to our world standing, with regard to the eyes that are upon us, we have to engage in a way that speaks to the very power that we're able to lever against our enemies. So, how does Iran respond? Well, we've already seen Qatar and our bases being attacked that way. It remains to be seen if they're going to try to bottleneck the Strait of Hormuz, which could roil oil markets and our economies around the world. That's not something Trump voters wanted when they voted Trump into office. They want to bring prices down. So, two steps forward, one step back here. And of course, we have an amnesia with regard to these campaigns. Vietnam, we had peace for a really long time. We won the Cold War. We won the Cold War without launching missiles against the great Soviet Union. We did that with a lot of soft power. They say rock and roll and blue jeans, that the East wanted more of what we had in terms of movies and our lifestyle than being repressed. So, I'm not saying that the Iranian regime is anywhere near accommodating us, say, some of that, but at the end of the day, Iran is a large country. There's 90 million people that live there. They fought valiantly against us and our backing of Saddam Hussein in the Iran-Iraq War. And so I don't put it past them to steel themselves with regard to further aggression. So let's hope that negotiations can stop this. Thank you.
So the question is, will this lead to those negotiations? And I'm not so certain that we know the answer to that question. Thank you, David. And we're going to try to get to everybody on the stage and not add anybody more at this moment. So, boy, was that grammatically accurate or not? Eagle, you're...
Yeah, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. Interesting commentary so far from people who've spoken before me. From my position here in the UK, I can tell you that the commentary on mainstream media has been one of, well, what happens next? The UK government say that they were informed by the executive of the United States of America about their attack on Iran, which was unlawful. Your constitution governs what happens internally to your country, but international law is something different. And as a signatory to the United Nations and a permanent member on the Security Council, the United States of America has a duty to behave in a way that fosters peace. And that hasn't happened with what it's done and what it has been doing vis-a-vis the continued support of a now wanted criminal in Israel, the Prime Minister, for crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing. There wasn't any mention of civilians who may or may not come under direct or indirect harm. I haven't heard anybody today saying, well, my thoughts are with the people who are suffering. Nobody mentioned the Palestinians, unsurprised. Nobody mentioned the Ukrainians, who, by all account from American scholars, have lost over 1 million men so far. So two conflicts which are being called proxy wars by people here in the UK and in the United States of America has, I think, put the reputation of the United States of America firmly in the dustbin, according to the people in the global south and in the global north. You got wide support from Germany, France, Britain, but other countries are not supporting what's happening today. I can tell you that for free. According to the IAEA, there should be no attack on any nuclear installation, irrespective of the enrichment of uranium. I don't know if anybody remembers Chernobyl or Fukushima. Radiation has a way of going where you don't think it will go, because the wind will blow where the wind will blow. To attack a nuclear installation is I don't know what word to use to describe that. It's weird. You haven't even been able to verify whether what has been done was successful. The question in the chat at the top of the board is, was the Iran attack constitutional? Well, that's an internal discussion for your country. If your Congress hasn't approved the release of a force against a country miles away from yourself who are not posing you any danger, well, then, from my position, I would say that that's not constitutional. And I've heard many people, including the one who spoke before me, say that's not really so. It's not constitutional. But the international community and the international law states that it is not lawful to do what has been done. And that's not my opinion.
So let me just ask you a question, since you bring up the point that the United States attacked a country that was not threatening to the United States. Well, then, do you feel that the United States coming in and helping bail out your country in World War II was a violation of the same international law? Because the Nazis were attacking Europe. They were not attacking the United States. So what are your thoughts about that?
That's an interesting question, and the framing of you that you put around it now. I think, again, the previous speaker said, we won the Cold War. Well, that's ahistorical. I think if we're real students of history, I think all of us should have the ability to understand empires don't get defeated by external forces. They all fail internally, all of them. So the Soviet Union didn't fail because of what America did. It fell because of what it did.
Yeah, those are all excellent points, but that does not address the question I asked you.
So your question was it legal for the United States?
Well, you're claiming that it's not legal for the United States to attack Iran because Iran was not presenting a direct threat to the United States. Okay, well, the Germans, the Nazis, were not directly threatening the United States either. So, do you bemoan the fact that the United States got involved in World War II and, saved your parents and grandparents fat out of the fire?
It's interesting you say my grandparents and my parents because my parents are from West Africa, right? So
all right, well, but you decided to move to the United Kingdom, to England, correct?
No, well, it's a little bit more complicated than that because if you know what happened with colonization, which is what
I know all about colonization, but right now, where are you emanating from?
Right. I mean, my parents come from the British country.
Right, but where do you emanate from right now?
Well, I'm in London.
Okay, so you enjoy the fruits of living under a democracy in London right now, which you might not have been able to had Hitler been able to spread fascism across Europe and into England as he had intended, and the United States was one of the countries that came to the aid of the country that you decide to live in right now, the geographical location that you decide to live in. So could you actually answer the question as intended?
Well, you just missed out the fact that the Soviet Union defeated the Nazis in Stalingrad Operation.
I said help defeat the Nazis. I didn't say that we did alone. So again, you're obfuscating. So I'm going to give you one last chance. It was a legitimate question, and I'd like a legitimate response to the question, and then we'll move on.
So if it's constitutional that your president needs to get congressional approval before they launch military attacks, then that's what they should do.
Okay, so you're not answering the question directly, and I appreciate your attempt, but you failed.
Hi, Gary. Can you hear me?
Loudly and clearly.
Thank you. I think a couple things. To answer the question of the room, constitutional. Obviously, we're all playing the Supreme Court here when we air our opinion on the constitutionality of the president's action of launching the B-2 bombers. So I'm just going to humor myself in the room like that, assuming, I'm one of the justices, and the whole room, Gary's room, is going to be the Supreme Court of the United States. I think the justification that the war power that Scott mentioned, consultation, if I were a federal judge facing the facts on both sides, no, it's not constitutional. Largely because it failed the wording of the Constitution. It's interesting that Ivy mentioned that the Constitution is a living, breathing document. That actually was the argument launched by conservatives against a liberal Supreme Court from the camp of the originalism constitutional interpretation adherent believers that the Constitution should not be changing its meaning just because times are different right now compared to 1776. So to say that, to justify that the Constitution is a living, breathing document in this particular case, there's a suspicion. I'm not saying there is, but there's a suspicion of political expediency. The reason I say that it's not constitutional is because I don't think the circumstances under which we launched the B-2 bombers were a circumstance where I think you made a proposed hypothetical that there was an intelligence of bombs, long missiles heading towards New York. It's going to arrive tomorrow. What should the president do? I don't think that's very equivalent. I would say for this particular president, President Trump, there's a pattern that he's using emergency powers that's really provided as the framers had intended as an exception, but he's using it as really the rule. And that is not just this particular case that we're talking about, the attack of Iran by the bombers, but as well as the immigration cases. For example,
yeah, but surely been other presidents, as Abby also pointed out, and you just mentioned that you were in the room when she was talking. Other presidents who did not wield the executive order pen to the degree that this president has domestically have taken military action in much the same manner as this president has previously, and there wasn't all this hand-wringing and chest-beating about the constitutionality of it as we see today.
So Gary, you're a psychic. That was actually the next point. The next point is actually relatively simple, meaning that yes, there were all these terrible previous presidents, including those terrible Democratic presidents that did the same thing, launching military attacks without the consultation or approval of Congress. Yes, let's assume that's the case. Remember, I'm speaking today as if I'm a fake Supreme Court justice. What the other presidents have done means something, but not dispositive in a legal term. Meaning that I would rule based on what I interpret the Constitution, not because some other bad actors did something exactly the same. That borders on a political argument, which is very classic. But
wait a minute. The only reason I challenge you on that is because you tried to make it sound like this president, with regard to this action, is acting differently than his predecessors because this president wields the executive orders so much, and I'm pointing out that that's not a fair argument to make, given that others who did not wield the executive order as often as this president also took unilateral military action abroad.
So let me just make that clear. No, I did not say that. Absolutely not. What I'm saying is that I'm judging what this president does. I'm not commenting whether the other actions by other previous presidents would be justifiable or not. Put it in another way. Let's say we have a different room tomorrow. The room title is, let's talk about the constitutionality of military attacks authorized by previous presidents, Clinton, Obama, Bush, blah, blah, blah. Gary, if I could be here tomorrow, I probably would make the same argument, meaning that if this were
right, and I'm sure you would, but I'm just trying to point out what I see as a nuanced attempt on your part to say, well, this is worse because this president has a history of ignoring the Constitution by sending military troops and into California, by letting ICE round people up. Okay, but one has nothing to do with the other. This has nothing to do with the executive orders, which have been roundly criticized here. This has to do specifically with a military action that may turn out to be a one-off.
Right. So the reason I raised the ICE example, which you did, as well as the immigration cases, et cetera, is to demonstrate my point that the circumstances that the president would justify the action today as in the launching of the bombers, in my opinion, they're not emergency circumstances enough. It does not meet the exceptional circumstances that in your hypothetical, for example, missiles are coming at New York or DC, and they are arriving tomorrow, and our Iron Dome is not good enough to protect those missiles, then I think the president is not going to need necessarily to go to Congress, have a 2-week discussion.
Right, but the discussion up until that point was whether a president should be required each time he wants to take military action of any sort to go before Congress. So if that requirement is in place at a time when there is, unlike in this example today, you're correct. In this example, there were not weapons pointed at New York City that were going to be imminently fired. But maybe in the future there are. So if we were to require a future president, each time that president wishes to use military force overseas to need the support of Congress before he does so, then if we do have a situation such as that, then
the president will not be in a position, if he or she were to follow that law, to protect the homeland from an imminent attack?
I can answer that question, Gary. My answer is this. The answer would be the president must consult Congress when launching wars, except in circumstances that warrant, because of the urgency and immediacy of the attack, that the president has to protect the United States, such as the missile is coming in New York City tomorrow, or Washington, D.C., et cetera, et cetera. My argument is that what happened last week in launching the B-2 bombers, that circumstance was not eligible, does not meet the exception that in my rule that I announced 2 seconds ago in this particular case. Another point is that, Gary, we're going back to Anson's argument and situation. Beyond the law, let's assume it's constitutional, okay for the president to do that. Remember, this particular president is really making the executive branch much larger than the other two branches. And this is really not a secret, and we've discussed this in this rooms previously as well.
That's not the only reason the current executive has the ability to do what he's doing is because of 250 years of other presidents. It's not fair to unilaterally set that on Trump. It's got a giant to it.
So this is one of the few presidents that openly said, I'm not sure I would pledge my allegiance to the Constitution. And very few presidents in my limited historical knowledge actually had announced that. So it's very clear that what President Trump has demonstrated is might is power. If you look at the big, beautiful bill, that particular provision of imposing a bond requirement for contempt of order, that is a blatant attempt of potentially ignoring contempt of order issued by federal judges.
It's a beautiful bill.
This is a very, very important fact, meaning that we may potentially have a direction that we're heading to where, like another gentleman mentioned, I think Dominic probably mentioned that when you look at other countries, the authoritarian state, you wouldn't see some of the circumstances that we have here that in those other countries. So in essence, this is really, there's more than a zero possibility that we are having a fundamental changes in our governmental structure, meaning that the president is bigger than the courts and Congress. And the president can wield a huge amounts of power, just as if he or she were in Russia or China or North Korea. And that, I don't think, is something that most voters would want to see that happening in the United States. To view other countries
You're saying it's Donald Trump's fault. It's not Donald Trump's fault. It's not Donald Trump's fault. The 250 years of American presidents have seized power after each administration and used the previous administration's rationales and actions as precedents for doing other things, Ben.
So Marshall,
you are setting the entire weight of history on Trump. That's not fair. If you want to attribute it and say 250 years of history have made it so that the executive is far more powerful than the founders ever intended to be, I agree with you. But just sitting at Trump's feet is not an honest statement of how we got to that place.
Okay, but I think his point was that the acceleration is greater under Trump during this particular administration than in any previous administration. I think that was your point.
It absolutely is. And actually, just now that I have the mic, just so that I don't want to blame this on Trump, honestly, in my limited exposure of information and the conversations that I've had with others that are much smarter and more knowledge than me, I think Trump is just the tip of the iceberg. Underneath that tip of the iceberg, there are other individuals, politicians, on whatever political spectrum. In this particular case, maybe the Heritage Foundation, maybe Project 2025, they even want more than what Trump is doing. Talking about we should view other countries culturally as enemy, that is very, very dangerous in my mind. Whether you're dealing with whatever country, Iran, UK, France, Russia, even North Korea for that matter, they are still in individual sovereignty on this earth. There are still approaches that we should follow, not because those are genetically evil culture, but rather it's the political system, it's their actions that we want to fight against. And I think that's a very nuanced point. I know some people may not like it. It's very easy to say, oh, because you have green hair, then you're an evil person forever. That is not, I think, a critical thinking forum sort of conversation should entail. It's just my opinion. I think,
I think you're right.
discussions.
I think you're 100% right. There are definitely people who want to use the power of the presidency to do things that are absolutely destructive to the country as a whole. I 100% agree with you.
So anyway, Gary, I think I've said more than I haven't been on stage for a couple of weeks, so I've said more than I probably should be saying. And I understand where you're coming from, Gary. Trust me, I do appreciate that or empathize. But I just wanted to point out, provide a different voice that it may be expedient to see your enemy getting hurt, but I always believe the theory that your enemy's enemy may not be your friend. You as in not you, Gary, I'm talking about the generic you. I would still like to analyze facts in a logical, scientific, evidence-based way versus just political ideology or whether I'm liberal, I'm conservative, you're a Democrat. I don't think it's that useful or helpful. But anyway, I appreciate your platform, Gary. Thanks.
Thank you, Ben. We'll now go to Brent.
The two questions in front of us, was it constitutional? I would argue absolutely. This is kind of a trope pulled out most of the times, and I think it neglects history or the text of the Constitution, the power over the military. And commanders and chiefs from our founding have used that power both internally and externally. Washington, the Whiskey Revolution or Whiskey Rebellion. You look at the Barbary Wars. I mean, the Halls of Montezuma or the Halls of Tripoli is something about a undeclared conflict. You want the executive to be able to exercise the shores of Tripoli. The shores of Tripoli. I apologize. The shores of Tripoli. You want the executive to be able to exercise commander-in-chief power so he can protect the nation. I think that's kind of what the Congress or the founders intended when they put him as commander-in-chief. Where the line is between like an action like that and an actual declared war, I think that is really unsure because the text is pretty non-existent there. But I do think things like the War Powers Act are actually the unconstitutional thing because they refrain, they too much kind of contain the presidential constitutional powers of the president. So I think actually the opposite way of somebody like Thomas Massey or others. I think the executive is pretty strong in national security. I think the second part, successful, it's looking less and less successful. I mean, the major site is really unclear whether we penetrated was enough depth to destroy their capability. It looks like a lot of their radioactive material, was scattered in various places in Iran. And my concern would be, it looks like the attack by the Iranians was meant to be intercepted. It was meant to be a dud. It's just coming over the wires that they're going to have a ceasefire tonight. My concern would be, this is a means of pausing, and we haven't actually removed their capability. And what we're going to have is still an Iranian state that is going to be now very motivated once they can breathe to go towards a nuclear weapon and establish nuclear deterrence. So I always make this point that this is essentially 1940s technology. You can either get rid of it by force or diplomacy. Diplomacy is a hell of a lot less risky, and unfortunately we left to JCPOA. I kind of worry now that we have used military force, if we don't come out the end of this conflict with an Iranian state that is both, highly motivated to achieve nuclear deterrence, and also really, really, really opposed, or more opposed, I guess you would say, to any sort of fundamental change in the region. That would provide stability. So, in my mind, this could be the worst of both worlds, or the worst kind of, if there's a decision tree, kind of the worst world.
So you're absolutely right. I was about to mention that, and you beat me to the punch. The president says that Israel and Iran have agreed on a ceasefire. And this was just minutes after both countries warned of future strikes. In fact, Iran had issued an evacuation order for parts of Israel, using a tactic that Israel uses when it's about to attack an area. So right now, the skies over Israel are quiet. I don't know how the skies are over Iran. I don't know whether this is an immediate ceasefire. I don't know if it'll hold. And I presume that if nothing else major happens between now and 5 o'clock New York time tomorrow, we're gonna have to suss out what all this means.
Yeah.
Is this letting Iran off the hook? Is this giving an opportunity for diplomacy to disband their nuclear weapons? Is this an opportunity for diplomacy for a regime change? I don't know, and we'll see as this unfolds. Thank you, Brian.
I would just one comment on that. The Iranian, I think the foreign minister just had a statement that says that they'll go to 3.67% enrichment when Israel dearms its nuclear force, and that to me,
well, Israel's not going to.
I understand that, Gary. I understand that, Gary. But my point is that doesn't sound like a regime, or this is a ceasefire that is coupled with any sort of agreement by the Iranian state to reduce its nuclear capabilities. And if that's the case, and these attacks weren't actually as successful as they appeared to be on kind of the first night, I think we are left with a very dangerous situation, because all the strategic logic for the Iranians would be to achieve nuclear deterrence and make these sort of attacks unfathomable. Because if you can achieve nuclear deterrence and you can place a nuclear weapon on a ballistic missile and put it in Tel Aviv, Israel doesn't do what it just did, nor does the United States. That's a lesson North Korea has learned very well.
It creates a talking point to show how horrible the Israelis are, because they continue to hold on to their nuclear weapons. And Iran has gone so far as to agree not to go beyond 3% in their enrichment efforts, even though they're beyond it already.
Not anymore. That was the enrichment cap during the JCPOA when the U.S. left.
I know that. But this just gives them another talking point.
Well, it might give them another talking point, but I think the bigger issue is that the logic to obtain the bomb is very strong now. If you're the Iranian state,
right? So that's what you and I are in agreement. I'm not arguing with you. I'm saying that all this is a talking point for Iran to send out as a cheat sheet to all of Israelis, all of the Israeli detractors, to chant on the campuses and the streets of our nation and the world. Barang, and then Summer. Benjamin, I'm not going to get to you. Barang.
Did it for me. The constitutional part, probably yes, I would say. Second part is what I want to talk about. And I am in part, I'm relieved. I have personal stake at the game. My mother, my grandmother, my aunt, all U.S. citizens are stuck in Iran. They can't get out. They need to get out. My grandma needs to come back. They were supposed to come 2 days ago that this happened. So I'm relieved that there's a ceasefire and they can get out. But at the same time, I'm greatly disappointed, because if it's true that means one thing that most Iranian people wanted to see, which was toppling of the regime. One thing that most Iranian people thought all of this will make it worth it, to be for this regime to be gone, a regime that's taken 80 to 90% of the people hostage for almost 50 years, means that the toppling of a regime is not going to happen. Means that they're probably made some sort of deals. They're going to stay. They're going to be extra vicious. They're going to go after anyone who says anything about the regime or writes anything about the regime. Now they're like an injured animal, and they're gonna, I think all Israelis and U.S. did was kick the ball down the road. They can recover and regain a lot of the stuff they've lost in 2 years, 5 years, maybe 10 years. The technology is 80 years old. They know the know-how. They have universities that are producing nuclear scientists all the time. They can buy stuff from North Korea, like they did before, from Pakistan. So disappointment on my part. I think it was all for just kicking the bucket down the road for at most 10 years, maybe. I really have nothing else to say.
Thank you, Barang, and I hope your family makes it out safely. And Summer, you get the final word.
Okay, thanks again, Gary. Basically, my theory is that each and every U.S. president we've had over the last few administrations, they've destroyed at least a couple of Muslim countries after becoming president. Bush, he deserves full credit for Afghanistan and Iraq. The Obama administration, I give them full credit for Syria, Libya, and Yemen. Biden, I would give him full credit for Sudan, although most of the foreign interventions, whether overt or overt, were non-Muslim countries such as Myanmar, Ethiopia, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and the U.S.-backed coup in Bangladesh, where although it's a Muslim country, it's the non-Muslim population was the one who was, has been persecuted and suffering after the Bangladesh coup. Aside from that, there was also collateral damage in Lebanon, Egypt, as well as the West Bank and Gaza. I don't think any single administration deserves full credit for any of those. But so far, Trump's achievements have been dismal compared to his predecessors. I think his biggest achievement was maybe virtually destroying the value of the Turkish lira against the dollar. But he didn't directly cause any physical harm or casualties in Turkey. So I think, perhaps, and I'm not saying Trump himself, but say the people influencing the administration, they wanted something big this time. They wanted a big fish. Iran happens to be a big fish. However, the news of the ceasefire just broke out in the last 10 minutes. If the ceasefire is to successfully hold, then I would say Donald Trump has failed again in comparison to his predecessors. He still doesn't have achievement under his belt in that regard.
Thank you, Summer. Folks, we're here Monday through Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. New York time. So till 5 p.m. New York time tomorrow. For the next edition of the Critical Thinking Forum, everybody be safe, be well, and peace out.
Just having the rational conversation, the MAGA conversation, I'll give you what the spin point is. So Vice President Vance just said, our bombs actually accomplished the goal of eliminating our nuclear program. That's a lie, right? And
that's a fucking lie.
Yeah. So that will be the MAGA talking point.
What
okay, so that's the
program
thing.
is that?
That's gonna be the exact. Oh, Matt, Matt.
Matt, I'll answer you. Matt, I'll be your hook.
Wait. No.
Matt,
Give me a second. second here. Chapman,
Okay, you got it. You got it.
Matt.
Tell me, what's the nuclear program consist of?
Oh,
Where's it-
Matt.
Where?
Brother Matt.
I want to bring something.
They still have. Hold on, can y'all just give me a second to talk to
Yeah,
Brother
I've got
Matt
it
here?
here.
Okay.
I got you like 5 minutes.
So Brother Matt. They still have their materials.
Not Brother Matt.
Yes, we got to go to that moment because he really overreacted to this. All right,
You're probably right a little bit. Go ahead.
So they still have materials, and then you literally didn't kill everyone in Iran who knows something about a nuclear program. Okay, they didn't literally kill everybody, and then also there are other countries they have relationships with, and they can bring people in. So you didn't eliminate their nuclear program. That is just objectively false.
Okay, let me just here's my
So I just Googled how long it would take them to go from 60 to 90 because they have enough uranium. It said it would have took them 7 to 10 days using its current stockpile of 60%. And they still maintain 408 kilograms or 60% of enriched uranium.
Where is this information coming out of? How do we know this? How do I know? How do y'all know?
Oh,
Nobody
God. Somebody make it stop. Make it stop.
Y'all hate Trump.
Nobody hates Trump. Will you stop? So you think we just make this stuff up? Listen. I'm not gonna have a listen here, buddy. You're not gonna piss me off, okay? But you're starting. Don't start saying that stuff, because I have never said that I hate Trump. So don't even fix your lips to say such stuff. It's a bunch of bullarchy, okay, sir?
Bullarchy.
I don't like
Bullarchy. Oh, wow. Did you just create a new term? What?
You never heard of bullarchy before?
I have, but it was like a 60s cartoon.
You should wear a bullarchy shirt, personally.
Bunch of bullarchy, man. That's a bunch of bullarchy.
One thing that we should be keep in the present is that Donald Trump just tweeted, I don't know how long ago, it was recently, thanking Iran for letting them know when the attack was going to happen at the base over there. We notified Iran that we were going to do this. They knew ahead of time. This is all a show. They knew it. Trump told them, this is going to happen to you. We're flying over there right now. We're lucky that they don't have anything to take that down, to take our planes down. But they know, they were notified. Just like they notified us that they were going to attack in Qatar, or whatever that base is.
That's really interesting. I won't even argue that. I mean, because
you really can't argue that one.
Maybe this was the way to get out of the entire situation, right? So basically, America gets to show some sign of strength. It gets Israel to back off. Iran pretends they've done some retaliation, and then you just reset, and then you have plenty of time to negotiate whatever your long-term deal is going to be. Yeah, that actually makes sense.
I don't know how he just made nonsense make sense. That
Lisa,
don't start me. Don't start.
Lisa.
Well, let's hold on. If we're being fair,
is it hateration Monday?
Hold on for 1 second, CEO. Hold up. When Obama went after the Osama, right? And do you think he gave the Pakistan government a heads up that they knew exactly where he was located? We knew where his family was located. We knew the house, and that there was a covert action headed their way. You think we gave that kind of heads up? Or did we just pop up with his head on a platter? Right. Right. That's what I'm trying to say. So there's probably a political reason that we're giving heads up to people that we're supposed to pop up on and do the unexpected, right? Having that advantage of them not knowing it's coming. So I definitely kind of agree with whoever that was that just said there's a reason why they gave us a heads up. There's a reason why we gave them. This is a political stage being played out right now. Well, nobody's really taking any true hits like that.
All right. It's a political stage thing. That's what he wanted to be on TV looking like Obama. This guy hates Obama. The only hate for sure is that Donald Trump hates Barack Obama.
What up, JD?
Yo, what's up, y'all? And I'm gonna ask you, how is that a show of force? If they knew we were coming, and how's that a show of force?
Because this is all narrative, right? It's all about the narrative you can create, and then you just dial that up, right? And if you look at Trump's face right now, they're all geeked. They're like, he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize, right?
He's a war hero.
And then on Saturday night, it was, this is the greatest executed military initiative in the history of the universe.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So who's buying that?
They're buying it. What are you talking about? It's completely bought in.
The maggots bought it.
This is the mega show. They do it for the mega. They believe all this nonsense.
So how many people have came in here and tried to give us some information and read just the headline and didn't read the article? So that's the thing, right? So there's a lot of Americans that's just going to read the headline and say we bombed the shit out of them, and they're not going to read into the article and say, hey, Qatar or Qatar, or whatever you want to call it, the country was informed prior to. Like, motherfuckers didn't even know. There's people that's coming in this room and didn't even realize that the United States was given advance notice and Israel was given advance notice that they was popping off. People are still talking like they just popped off.
That's a fact. I'm literally about to engage in a lawsuit that's based on that, right? Which I ain't gonna go into the details, but basically, people will look at a thumbnail and not read an article, right? We're we're looking for fast consumption, fast food politics, fast food information. So they'll look at a title, look at a picture, and then make all kinds of assumptions, especially maggots, based on that. They're not going to go through the details, sift through the details. How many times have we asked them in this room about a detail of a situation that they're speaking as if they had extreme knowledge on, and they don't know?
Oh, they say they know. They'll provide the data in the chat, and we'll be like, what the fuck is you talking about?
And here's where this all gets deeper. All right, so Disclosed TV just came out and reported that Iran has not been presented with any ceasefire proposal and sees no justification for initiating one, a senior Iranian official tells CNN, okay? All right, so Mike Benz, who is this security expert that has, worked within the Trump administration, his response to that is, we're manifesting. What does that mean? It means that Trump probably does not have a deal with the Iranians, but he made a statement as though there is a deal to force them to do a deal. Do you understand? Are you all getting what I'm saying?
I just didn't hear what you said. Yes. Who did you say said they were manifesting? Who said that?
This guy named Mike Benz. He's basically saying Trump is manifesting the ceasefire.
Who is he? Like what?
He's a security expert that has ties to the Trump administration. So
Got
he's
you.
Kind of one of the big MAGA influencers.
Got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but CEO, how many times have he said in the last month that he has a deal and the trade negotiations done, and it's a lie? Like
China's begging. China's been calling me every day, begging. All they do is call. I don't take their calls, but China's begging. He does it all day.
It's the same play. It's the same play. He can know what you. The deal is done. But it's done. It's the same.
So here's the deal. Here's the deal with it, though, right? As opposed to talking to Iran and being like, hey, let's work out a ceasefire. By him declaring one, it doesn't put them in that position. So now they can just roll with it.
what you mean. I know what you mean, but you gotta understand the people on the other side of the deal, they see it as like, what is going on here? What is going on? You're saying that you talked to me and I didn't. And diplomacy doesn't work that way.
Anyone who wants to take this wager with me, I bet you this works.
Actually, I don't want to take that wager because I understand that perception plays a huge fucking role, right? And even if this didn't happen, the perception that it did can lead to it being manifested. So, yeah.
Correct. That is correct.
But the thing about the ceasefire, though, it could easily be debunked if it's because it's being said that it's being agreed between Israel and Iran. So if Israel, because they're basically saying that they hope that it lasts, right? So if they didn't agree to it, there's no like gray area between whether a ceasefire, like there either is one or there isn't one. And you can easily tell if there is or isn't one because shots will be fired. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really know what everyone's debating about regarding the manifesting situation.
That's a good point.
Because if you're manifesting something, if I say, yo, I'm manifesting this Lamborghini and it's not in my driveway, well, everybody gonna be like, well, bro, where's your Lambo at? Like, oh no, bro, I'm just
so bro, basically,
I'm just saying I'm just saying I'm manifesting.
So, bro, you're basically saying if the sirens go off tonight, then there it is.
Gemini, you got it, bro. You got it.
Simple as that. I got you.
Well, no, they said basically there's a 12-hour window. There's a 12-hour window.
Yeah, Gemini, I just manifested $1 million in my checking account and another $1 million in my.
Hold on. Let me get that. Hold on. I gotta stop you there. Like, y'all gonna think I'm a weirdo. But I absolutely 1,000% believe in the power of manifestation, and I utilize it on a daily basis, and I've accomplished things doing that. I have. Like, I can sound weird, but it's real.
No, it's bro. Have you read the?
You gotta take action behind it. I don't just think it. You gotta take actionable steps towards it, of course. But yeah, I believe in that.
Oh yeah, of course. Yo, Gemini, have you read a book called The Master Key System by a guy called Charles Atano?
No, but I'm gonna put that on my to-read list, though.
Bro, it's the book that Bill Gates wrote before he dropped out of college and built Microsoft. Like, pretty much every CEO in Silicon Valley's read that book. Like, you'll fuck with it. You'll fuck.
Can you drop that in the chat if you don't mind?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
I think at this point, I'm just happy the thing has not quite up the control unnecessarily. Because if the uranium missiles had hit the target right now, we'll be talking about something different entirely right now. Which we will not know what direction it's going to go. So, for now, I'll say I'm happy. Just for now. Because you don't know what will happen tomorrow morning.
Oh, well, you guys, I have a person who is going to be a special guest in 420. She was volunteering in the medical field. She is a doctor in Gaza. Because I was so upset with that question I got asked. Name a child. What's the man's name? What's his name? Norman. Unnormal. Name a child that died of starvation in Gaza. So, you know how we chopping it up at work. I found somebody who just got back. I was working over there, so she can name a lot of children and a lot of shit. So,
but does she?
Oh, that's dope. What time? I want to make sure I'm here for that.
Does she have their social security numbers, birth certificates?
No, she didn't. Because security number. No, are you serious right now? I am not. You know what? That sounds like some bullshit you come up with. But yeah, I'm trying to make sure I get her on tonight.
That's awesome, Lisa. That's a great find. So yeah, make sure she doesn't give any identifying information because these people are weirdos. And the moment you said that some kids had died in Gaza, Aloma was like, "Oh, what was the hospital?" Because at first it was like, "Oh, what are their names?" And then when you brought names, he's like, "Oh, what hospital did they die in?" Like he just doesn't believe that any children are dying in Gaza.
Like nobody's dying. Yeah, that should ruin his argument. That should completely make him, what is the word? What's the word when somebody, losing their credibility on anything that asks me what were their names, like no children are dying. over there. I'm tired of this bullshit. So today I had my patient was from Russia. Unfortunately, he was having a nose job, so I couldn't really get his information. But the circulating nurse who was in there, he is literally from what's the place they're supposed to be ending the war? I'm hungry and tired, you guys. I'm losing my vocabulary. No, the other place. They were supposed to be over in 24 hours.
Ukraine.
Yeah, that's where my circulator was from. So I got his digits because I said I'm gonna start bringing all you guys as my special guests, so I can have people who actually have been in these areas talk. You know, so I got his digits for the next dumbass conversation.
Lisa,
that's dope. That's dope.
So, Lisa, like, please manage the room careful way so they do not have a horrible experience.
Wait, I didn't hear you. I'm trying to say CEO. I'm in Whole Foods.
No, I was just saying, please manage the room carefully so they don't have a horrible experience. You don't want to.
No.
No, she didn't hear it. Lisa didn't hear it. So.
Okay, then I'm asking, what are you trying to say?
Okay, what I'm saying is there's sometimes certain people that are pulled up from the peanut gallery and they get very loud and indignant on stage. And if this is someone she knows in real life,
they're going to get
shot.
shot.
Want them to have that experience.
Oh, they're going to get shot. You ain't got to worry about it. If they get semi-loud, they can pass it to point two.
Clubhouse experience.
Yeah, that's you guys can respect the fact that this lady is coming on and giving her time and her experience, willing to ask any questions that you guys want to ask, except for personal, you know. But that would be fucked up if that happened.
We're not going to allow it to happen. It's people going to get shot. If they play, they get shot. It's simple. Quick.
Listen, it's not us you should be worried about. It's not us you should be worried about. It's people like Nomo you should be worried about. And I wonder why nobody ever asked him about all the babies that were beheaded and put in ovens or whatever they were saying that time. Nobody ever asked him for the names of those babies.
Yeah, I mean, nobody asked them for the names of those babies because we're like decent people. You know, that would be an indecent question.
I mean, but he did ask Lisa to give her names.
But we're not holding ourselves to his standard.
No. I'm just saying, we're not doing that, which is good. But I'm just saying, he asked for names of kids that have starved to death.
I think that's irrelevant. Y'all heard the Brazil?
Nothing I say is irrelevant, little boy.
I think it is irrelevant. I think it is.
The first lady said
a lot of names.
I gotta ask you, was the first lady said it? Who said it?
It was Norm, right? That's what you guys are talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, a lot of shit he says is irrelevant.
Right, yeah, because he was demanding names of innocent women and children that he murdered. It's like, excuse me, you're already senator, so. But y'all heard the breaking news, there's a ceasefire.
He's not the Israeli government.
Yeah, maybe we should update the
Does not jump out the window.
Fair.
What are we doing?
That he supported.
Lisa got a room schedule.
For what time?
It's I'm getting old, guys. Hold on. 340? Wow, she says 340 PDT. Hold on.
Oh, that would
was
be.
that? Was that old? That photo? No, that's what she just put right now. She put 534 special guest.
534.
420. No, 534. She sent it to the chat.
534.
My time.
Would be 8. 8, right?
No, it says 340 PDT.
Then that was
That's 28 minutes ago.
7, 8.
I'm in Whole Foods. You guys hold on. I'm in Whole Foods.
You're running on extra CP time.
Shut up. They can't get the cash register to work.
He just called you blackity black.
So let you take that shit for free.
Nah, they wish. It came up to $75. They gonna give me this free.
So you pick it up tomorrow. You pay them tomorrow.
It was this porterhouse steak. You know, this food is getting out of ridiculous here. All I want to do is just have like a little steak and potato.
How do you cook it? Well done, medium rare. How do you cook it?
Medium.
Okay, you're human.
Thanks a lot. I was just gonna do that it's only gonna take a few minutes when I'm with you guys, and now was there something wrong with the machine or something wrong with my card? Machine? Okay.
Well, I'm in bed, so let me know what y'all doing.
It's at 7 o'clock. What the hell are you? If you don't wake your ass.
I'm tired.
Dropping on to 5:30. Everybody's calling me.
No.
You know, when she take a shower, she just like dive into the bed.
7 o'clock. Come on.
It's 6.
She was up all night long. You don't know.
Oh, she might have been wilding out. Never mind.
Exactly.
No, I was up last night in the room, but then I woke up early. Yeah, I got up at 5:30. I'm tired. You know when you start feeling your left eye just closing? Like, yeah.
Your eyes are glitching and shit.
And then you be like, let me take a power nap and wake up.
Yeah, that's what I did, a little nap.
Yeah, that's a little cat nap.
I ain't gonna lie, I've been getting my little cat naps in more recently. I don't know what's going on, but it be feeling good.
Oh, you know what that means, right? It means we got somebody pregnant.
Huh? No, the fuck it don't. Take that back.
That's my mother used to say.
The truth is not in you. What the hell?
My mother used to say, you pregnant. Or when the guy started talking about his stupid, or you didn't got somebody pregnant. That's an old.
What the hell, you Barry?
I just don't have old parents, that's all. Alright, what?
And now we're on for the TV quick performance PSA. Hush, little baby, don't you cry. Mama's gonna buy you a DMX or Tupac CD. And if that baby likes the song, play them songs all day fucking long. West Side is the mission. You can hear it.
What's going on?
You blaming you, Lisa.
I ain't got nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. Oh my God, that was horrible. No, because I'm taking my time at Food Select. Whole Foods. I'm out the door now. Okay. I'm glad you're out the door now.
So Lisa about to open her house.
Start your car. Wait a minute, hold up.
Yeah.
Excuse me, please. Can you not interrupt the instructions? Thank you. When you approach your car and place your bags inside, please go ahead and click start run. So that you can join me in your car. We appreciate you. Okay, fine. I'll do it. You know I hate doing this in the fucking car, but for you, First Lady, anything and everything. So let me get my ass in the car and do what I'm told. Yes, mommy. No, not yes, mommy.
Yes, mommy is crazy.
I know, right? You know what's funny? When I told Normal I could smell his breath, it smells like fire and brimstone. I told him today in the different job, and they were like, that was crazy.
That was crazy. Hey, you know what I imagine when you said that? I imagine sulfur, like a hot sulfur smell.
That's what I was imagining too. That's what the devil's breath smell like. Probably smell worse than that though, right? Well, damn. There you go. All right, people. Let me make sure I'm getting in the car and call my girl. See if she's available.
What you doing in your car with all that noise?
Oh,
They don't even make Dawson's no more, do they?
Everything you know, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Come see the woman that do my feet. She'll get rid of them.
Oh, honey, we get you right. We get you right tonight.
Wait a minute, you said somebody got Flintstone feet. What's going on?
The way that car sound.
That's really cold-blooded.
Hey, see, if I said that, they say I was being Flintstone feet. It's crazy.
Girl, I don't even know what your teeth look like. No.
I know.
I ain't got no key for my house. I ain't got no key for my car. What's going on?
I'm so sorry. We can't all be you.
Man, I ain't gonna lie. I got a bunch of keys. I got a bunch of damn keys.
You
Not car, but it's not the car keys. It's the warehouse keys, the building keys, the gate keys. I got a bunch of fucking keys.
You go on Amazon and get a little $50 fingerprint thing. I got the fingerprint thing. You can freaking put in a code for people to use as temporary up to 2 hours.
I just don't trust that on the warehouse, man.
Well, you can't trust your neighbors either. Not all of them. And you can't trust some of your friends. Like, that's all.
So you trust Bobby Clips? That's what it is.
They can still get in your shit. That's a fact. They can still get in. I told you about Garter World out here. Garter World is they got hit for like 100-something million, and they still ain't caught the people that did that.
You know, don't forget about the one on Easter. Not this last Easter, but the previous Easter.
That was Garter World. That was Garter World. That's
Lord.
Yeah.
Nigga, how do you go through the fucking ceiling?
They went through the ceiling and got 100 million. They didn't even rhyme. They went through the ceiling and got 100 million. They did. It was mostly cannabis money too, because that's what they do. They took 100 million.
That's an inside job.
It was because they said the safe was not broken into. It was open without force.
Get ready for more of this shit, bro.
Castle Friendly Ghost, open it.
Cover your bases, brother.
I'm not into crime, but 100 million, that man, that's
everybody retired, nigga. Everybody. That should have been a red flag. Everybody retired. Which one? What's his name?
I bet you some people still working here that's mad. They just trying to get fired right now, so it look normal.
We trying to keep character, nigga. What you up to? I know you retired, nigga. Okay, you retired. Okay, so I'm gonna just get fired. Me and Craig and Tyrone. All right.
Hey, but even if you get fired, you got to get another job because they're gonna look at that too. Like, okay, he just got fired and been balling ever since.
I can't read or spell, nigga, after a pandemic, so I have to get some psychotherapy. So I've been at the therapist. After I lost my job, I lost my mind.
But Aleph, I've met a few people like that. Aleph is talking about Trump, how he has the world in his hands and he still lies. But this is the weirdest thing. I've encountered a couple people that were extremely well off, extremely rich, living a lifestyle that anybody would be very happy to live, and they still would lie about a bunch of shit, just exaggerate and lie. Like, why? Like, your real life is so crazy. Like, why you? It's weird. It's like it's a disease. They can't help it.
Look, they said when you come into a large sums amount of money, aka reparations and shit.
Okay, Lisa's about to open her room, y'all.
First lady, Patty, you looked at the chat.
That's Patty saying y'all gotta get the hell out of here. Like, she trying to say it nicely.
No, wait.
I already confirmed it, but I don't see Israel. I can't read it. I can't click on that right now.
I guess we'll see.
All right, you said we gotta get out of here. They gotta go home. They gotta get out of here.
They said when you come into a large amount of money, settlements and reparations and shit, they said nothing's changed. Now that should be a movie or TV show, nigga. You gotta act like nothing's changed.
And I don't see no down. That's why I said we about to get out of here because I thought she was gonna drop it in the chat.
I think she opened it.
Act like nothing's changed challenge.
Want to change challenges, right?
If you come across $10 billion or multi-millions of dollars or settlement,
I got you your linky. I got the linky.
Oh, you got it? All right.
Get the linky. Put the
Yeah,
linky.
it's right there.
Linky.
Michael said, last call, yeah.
Last call for no alcohol. We want to see you. Sit down. Thank you for flying from East Side Insulated. It's all right. This is Monday. Goodbye. Daddy, you leaving?
All right, and
All right, I'm ending it.
Monday, sing it if you know it. Monday, yeah. We gotta eat some milk plus ocean Gemini. ST, and Patty.
oh, boy. Can we have
Oh, my bad. I blacked out.
Can someone get the choir director's attention for me? Can we go to selection B?
My bad. Gotta be. Shit, I blacked out.
Amen. Amen to you, brother. We appreciate you for lending your voice to the Lord. But now we have to move on to Sister Carol with selection B. Like, it better not sound like what you just sounded like. That's what B stands for. Welcome, everybody, to the 420. We're trying to see if I can get our special guest here tonight, which I'm looking forward to her.
Nigga, I saw myself out the room. I'm like, hello? I'm in a whole other room.
In the hallway. Welcome, everyone. Robert, come up. Aleph, come up. All the normals. All the normals and the abnormals. You know, I enjoy having you on the stage, Ed. You have a lot of good shit to offer, so I appreciate you coming to the stage. And you too, F. Gray, whenever you get a chance, when, you know, I know y'all are busy and popular, got a lot going on, but I appreciate it. So, yeah, we're going to have God is good, and the PayPal, and the check has cleared. We should have a guest speaker, a guest minister on the program tonight, and we're just gonna see how this goes. Hey Sue, what's cooking in your part of the world, Sue? While we trying to set up the stage.
Hi Lisa, it's crazy over here right now.
Say what?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Tell us all about it, please, while I'm pinging.
I was on my way into UCLA this morning from the San Fernando Valley. You know the demo.
I know the demo.
A sergeant was killed, unfortunately, on the 405.
Say what?
Yeah, a sergeant was killed. It was not intentional. Helping another citizen on the side of the road on the freeway. And it turned into the 405, which caused complete backup. So you couldn't get anywhere from the San Fernando Valley into the city. And then they decided, of course, to do the salute for him. So they brought out the fire department, all the police officers, shut down the 405. To make matters worse,
that's going to be a nightmare.
It got worse than that, Lisa. So what does ICE do? They took advantage of all the people that got stuck over on the west side and hit up more places where those nannies and people are congregating. And it's all over Facebook right now in those groups. They're taking pictures, they're like getting the word out. And that's all been going down in the last hour and a half. And I'm just sitting here spreading the word to people. Because nobody can leave, nobody can come home. And ICE decided to plant themselves on the south side of UCLA while we are on the north side of UCLA. And for anybody that knows, that's a good 10-mile spread with a mountain in between.
Yeah.
And so for ICE to do this, they know what they're doing. Yeah. They know, and they've just landlocked Westwood all the way to Santa Monica.
Well, can I ask you, what was this sergeant? Was he
killed accidentally?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
He was on the side of the road. There had been a car pulled over. I don't know if it was an accident. It was early at like 5:30 this morning, and he was on the side of the road assisting.
Wow.
And he and the citizen died.
Wow.
Very tragic. And it turns out that this guy is the caretaker for his. They're now hitting the people over on the west side. They got Westwood and Brentwood. I'm like,
Trump said he was coming after you guys, and Kelly, what's going on? Y'all know that he was. I can't invite Sonia up because something's wrong with my phone.
Are you right now?
I mean, a 6-year-old.
She's here.
A 6-year-old woman.
Can I say something?
No.
Oh, why?
A 6-year-old woman selling tamales.
What do you mean? Somebody added me.
Wait a minute, we can't do that.
Somebody added you.
Go ahead, Queen.
It means bringing you on stage. Okay. You know, while he's talking and she's talking, giving us the local updates, can you guys please ping your friends in so I can get out the car? I am pinging as I am in Whole Foods parking lot.
I'm in ping jail right now.
Thank you, baby. And I need to get no, I don't invite him. Never mind. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Who did I interrupt? Please continue.
Not LaQuisha. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Queen.
No,
I was just finishing. Let me just finish. They're taking out people now they've got rifles on their chests, and they're coming out fully armed.
First of all,
and that's
I will say I would have.
It's this.
You go on, so I'll kick them down.
Oh, okay, thank you. No, I just wanted to end with that. So, the most recent one was a 60-year-old woman, because we're being told not to carry our documents on us because they're ripping that up. So people are carrying them on their phone.
Yeah, you're supposed to carry it on your phone, exactly.
They're
right, but they're not letting
your
people get to use their passwords to get their phone unlocked.
Have you heard about the recent round of arrest of the ICE impersonators that's happening nationwide because they're kidnapping people utilizing ICE? And one of the guys told one of the women that unless she had sex with them, that I'm not. I'll put out the link in the chat. I'm not joking right now.
No, he's right. Gemini is 100% spot on. Gemini, go for it.
So I just think it's sad. We got to be careful. Like, I want to see some credentials, like, with anybody I'm interacting with. And if I'm as a woman, I absolutely advise you guys to be as safe as possible and to make sure that the person, just like you make sure with law enforcement, you want to know it's a real cop, right? You got to do the same with ICE, because these people are running up armed, no badges, unmarked vehicles, out-of-state plates. How do you know? And Karen just actually made a statement about that. Karen Bass did.
Karen Bass. He's right.
Yeah, she said that this is getting out. And she's saying that they're having a problem because these people are not properly identifying themselves. They're even switching out plates on the vehicles that they're using. So the plates on their cars are not even the plates that's supposed to go to that vehicle, which should be illegal alone. Like, they're just doing like straight, I guess, gangster shit. That's the only way I can really think about it. Like, when you're just running down on people, unmarked vehicles, no credentials, masked up with a gun, what do you call that?
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there.
You might get a bullet. You don't know who these people are in certain cities. This is not good. It's not no kind of way to round up people.
Especially for the Hispanic women, I really feel bad for them. Like, who knows who could use that against them, or if they're just being targeted by some weirdo with a mask and a gun, like.
An all-time high as well too, with all the emotions. You got the kids, a lot of the immigrants, even not just immigrants, but everybody, they got kids, dogs, and the elderly, putting them at risk for this travesty of bullshit, of posing as an ICE agent and kidnapping and robbing. I heard there was one family that just moved to a new neighborhood. They had ICE come up in there, had them naked, walking around in their underwear outside in front of their neighbors, embarrassing them, and then they're going to steal it for their laptops and other, liquid that they were able to get, jewelry and shit. They robbed them.
They got laid out.
They got laid out.
Hey everybody, welcome to the 420. I know you guys are coming over from Politically Correct. I'm just trying to set the stage. Please ping in your people. Please go downstairs, press that arrow. Ping in, you know what? Ping in the ones that you don't like, because those usually are the fun ones for me. So ping in. You know, make sure people end up liking them.
Lisa, I promise to behave until after dark.
Oh, yeah, baby, you know. You already know.
We know after dark it's lit in here.
Yeah, girl, how you doing? Hey, what's up, Ashton? You got any breaking news, Ashton? And hey, LeBron, you got any breaking news, LeBron? Want your opinion?
It's a good day, Lisa. The governor.
I have breaking news, Lisa.
Okay, after Ashton. Ashton, give us what's going on in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, THC products and all that will stay legal. The governor vetoed in the middle of the night overnight. The
will stay legal.
It will stay
Congratulations.
I agree.
Great work.
We did a lot of work, y'all, lobbying. I mean, seriously, we put a lot of work behind that. We passed out 6,700 pieces of paper, and 286,000 people signed a petition. So we were on it, and yes, ma'am. We have boxes piled up in the governor's office. Yes, ma'am. It worked.
Don't mess with that.
Work. How you fight? You have to do it like that, man. And you got to keep putting your feet down, keep going, keep passing out papers. Eventually, people will sign the legislation and sign it to where it gets to the governor's desk on time. And it worked. I mean, that's 285,000 people.
And how would you go and testify before Congress for a bill? Like, if you make a good candidate to be, somebody who could testify and be a good witness. Because I actually contacted my state representative, Taki Chan, here in Quincy, Massachusetts, and I found a loophole in the cybersecurity bill. These idiots were supposed to contact me and let me know that they had one in April, but they're having another one because they're trying to get it passed. Well, so many people, the reason why ICE is wearing masks is kind of bad, but because several ICE agents have gotten doxxed and they've been swatted, and it's just really bad. They've been targeted. Just like congressmen too. They passed a swatting law in 2021 because the congressman got swatted as well because he got doxxed. And they passed a law and everything, making it a federal crime to dox anyone. So, with that being said, with me getting swatted 12 times because I got doxxed and I kept getting swatted and I've been harassed for over 4 years, they thought I would make a good candidate to testify before Congress to go in there and show those motherfuckers what.
Can you tell us TA was swatted?
Swatting is when you call it, hi, my name is, they pretend to say, hi, my name is Aurora. I just had a gun and a knife to my daughter's throat. I want to kill myself, or a gun to my head. Such as that, calling in fake response. Even after my daughter was taken by DCF, she still continued to call in, pretending to be me. So my kids have been victimized and targeted. Let's not forget that we're a multiracial family, and I was targeted by an Indian Muslim woman, or trans man. And politically correct, whatever. And it's the fact that, like, my whole family was doxxed and targeted. This actually happened. Wait a minute. This has to do with doxing and why ICE is wearing masks. Because people are doxxed, and I'm explaining what swatting means. Swatting is how to
to do that? That's a
federal crime. I just said.
One mic.
Mods. I'm driving. I'm like about 6 minutes away from the computer. Can you guys moderate the?
I got you. I was just about to.
Yes. About a bill that passed in my state. I don't know how in the world we got on that law.
Because it's in my state too about cybersecurity, honey. Ashley.
She's talking about.
I'm talking about going to Congress and testifying before Congress. That's what I'm going to be doing, baby. That's all. I wasn't trying to. You know I love you, Ashton. Come on. It's
Right. Okay. Right on. Okay.
Ashton, I did want to speak to your victory. I want to congratulate you guys. I'm glad to hear that he was able to veto that. Now you guys have to work around the 1% THC that's allowed, because 1% is just insanely low.
They're having a session about it, but that's why they're having a special session, so that adults and others can get access to higher grades. But for now, this is a victory for us because even this lower amount, people still are, receiving some benefits
It's
from
a
it.
step in the right direction.
The right direction, yes.
Right.
And with
No,
us,
fuck that.
doing
One
our
gram of
work-
THC ain't gonna get me high. I smoke weed every day.
Hold on. Oh my God, have mercy.
She's actually
Back
right.
on track.
She's actually right. At 1% is not gonna get anybody
It's
high.
not, but it's a step in the right direction for the people who asked for the $8 billion in businesses. 10,700 stores can keep their doors open. So it's more than just, is this going to get me high? There are people who make their living off of this stuff and they don't want their businesses shut down. And they got what they wanted. They got their businesses open. And so they're trying to get it changed, but it's a step in the right direction. And it does work when you start to legislate and get the stuff passed out. We're only one entity, but DFW Normal and others lobbied, and it worked. This stuff is in the right direction because before we had nothing. So I'm grateful.
I hope you checked out ASA because I think ASA. Give me 1 second, please, Tia. I really, Ashton, I hope you got a chance to check out ASA because I really think they will be super powerful allies for you guys to have, and they're the most influential group when it comes to advocacy. I definitely would highly recommend.
I've never heard of that. I know we have DFW Normal out here. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, they're way bigger than them. Americans for Safe Access. I'll put it in your back channel.
Appreciate it, yeah, because I'd like to, whatever we can do. I mean, even the church had a perspective on it, and we said it's a seed from God, not something made in a lab. And so I think from this perspective here, it got their attention. This is the Bible Belt, and so a lot of people kind of leaned on that a little bit, and that really does help when you can put a biblical perspective on something and help open that door up, and it works as well. And so I just want people to understand, you put the work behind it and you put the evidence behind it, it certainly will get passed if you stay persistent. And that's what we all did, all of it. It worked.
Thank you for that. And we do have another person on this stage who's willing to give us some breaking news while I'm trying to get it to the garage. And that is my co-worker and professional in Christ, Levon.
I'm a fellow healthcare colleague.
That's a co-worker.
It's okay. Breaking news, the Supreme Court just handed Trump victory on their appeal. They just decided 6-3 that Department of Homeland Security or Immigration ICE can now continue to deport undocumented immigrants to third-party countries that they are not from with little or no notice. So it's countries like Sudan. So all of you folks don't hang around Home Depot or, I think this is going to drag even more people underground. And it was 6-3 with Sotomayor, Kagan, and what's her name? Ketanji Jackson voted against it, and the other 3 voted for it.
And that's a fact. Anything else, guys? Because I have a recommendation. I've been thinking about this because it's been troubling me for quite a while. Because remember I told you guys that I would, if I was that person in that situation, this is what I would do. I would either take that $1,000 in the ticket and go anywhere. I don't know. I don't have to go back to where I came from. I can go to the Bahamas, right? Jamaica, some shit like that. I don't know how that works. But I would do that, or I would stay underground. We talked about this the other day. I would just stay underground. How many more years will this be going on? And then I'll pay somebody to go do my grocery shopping, to get me all my necessities. I might come out, maybe for some sun in the backyard. But I'm telling you guys, this is getting crazy. Did you guys just hear what's happening in LA? All because of, they used the event of a cop losing his life to also increase their chances of getting more illegals by when the highway was closed. It's crazy. Come on now.
Didn't they try to go to a Dodgers game?
I don't have energy for this shit.
Didn't they try to go to a Dodgers game as well and use that parking lot kind of as an offshoot, but get people coming out of the game? The Dodgers was like hell to the no.
I'm not sure. I have to refresh my memory on going to a damn Dodgers game because that's all who's there. It's like, y'all know Dodgers.
Yes, they did, Lisa, and they were refusing to
called them in. They told them no.
And this is insane. Anybody else got any breaking news? I'm getting ready to go underground. Anybody got breaking news that can carry me?
So Iran did come out and say they officially accepted the peace deal. So that manifestation worked apparently.
So, one question before I open up this gate. Are they saying that look at this woman out here. Are they saying that they didn't say that they give up? They're not saying that they are waving the white flag. They're just saying what? Because remember I said that they will not surrender?
It's not a surrender. It's just, we're going to stop. Everyone's agreeing to stop fighting.
Oh, okay. So, just making it clear. Iran did not surrender. I'm doing my quote fingers. They didn't do that, right?
No, they didn't.
Good. Okay, cool. All right. That's all I wanted to know. Because I knew they weren't going to surrender. Because he wanted them to surrender.
I believe Yemen entered the war, if I'm not mistaken.
And Yemen has entered the chat?
Well, let's just hope it's nothing like Ukraine or Russia ceasefire.
Oh, that's a good one. All right, I'm going on mute because I'm underneath the building.
The Ayatollahs are not pushovers. They ain't gonna just bow down to Bibi, the bulldozing criminal.
Well, I hope
who said they were bowing down? It's a ceasefire. Both sides stop shooting each other. How is that bowing down?
So he's talking about Israel.
They better not point any more ire toward the U.S. because I'm gonna tell you, they shoot at any more military targets concerning to the United States. That probably wouldn't be a good idea for them. They have no air superiority, so it probably wouldn't be a good idea for them to continue to aim at. They shot some missiles over, kind of toward UAE. You know, those folks closed their airspace. So, was anything hit? No. Missiles got knocked out of the air and so on and so forth. But still, it just shows some capability of Iran to at least get them there. Down, they didn't hit anything, but still, America, you know, hey, we're hanging in there. We shouldn't have even been there in the first place. Man, how did we get here?
Y'all don't even know how narrow the Straits of Hormuz is. I sailed it in 96. You could see missiles on both sides of that motherfucker.
I do. It's 22 miles wide.
That's not very wide.
Hell no. We have to go in a single file.
22.
Aircraft carrier in the middle.
I think on that island they had 50 tankers turned around, so we'll see if they get back.
Yeah, Iran doesn't have to throw bombs to give us pain. If they decide to shut the Straits of Hormuz, it's over.
Can I just ask a question real quick? Why is there this thing like, this bad stuff's still gonna happen? Like, it's a ceasefire where everyone's trying to end it. This is gonna be deaded, done, finished. So why is there like this obsession with like dialing it up and making it worse?
We're not sure
it's gonna be bad.
We hope, but how many ceasefires have Israel broken with Gaza? We hope. So if there is something to get
But Israel, if they break the ceasefire of Iran, that's not the U.S. breaking a ceasefire.
Yeah, I'm here with
the
CEO.
It doesn't matter. They're all foxes.
It doesn't matter.
Israel shot.
It doesn't matter, really.
I hope it holds, but I'm saying I do it by history, and they're not known to be true members of their word.
And how many times when Israel didn't hold up her ceasefire, the U.S. got hit afterwards?
We already know that was forecast.
What?
Yeah. So Israel and Iran have both not confirmed their ceasefire.
Iran confirmed it. They confirmed it with Reuters 5 minutes ago.
Not with Israel.
Iran confirmed it. An Iran official confirmed it.
What's your source?
Okay, let me say something. I'll put it in the chat right now. We are talking to a liar. We are talking to a liar
Trump is a liar. Israel has lied. Russia has lied. Everybody who said that there's a ceasefire has fired against the thing. Iran is no different. Let's be clear on this. You're talking as though it's fair to listen to each other. They're just refueling. They're setting up. And I think they'll strike back before Israel breaks the deal, because Israel's broken a deal against Hamas and Palestine and Gaza 3-4 times. It makes no sense for them to agree. It makes no sense. They just say that to appease Trump. They're refueling, and then they're going to strike back.
I'd say Israel's lying. We're not lying, though. Dan, would you agree that?
I'm saying we think we are in truth. Everybody else knows that everybody is lying. It makes no sense.
To do. I mean, can we just back out at this point? No, we bombed a site in Iran, and however they retaliate, it may not be proportional or fair. That war, whatever you want to call it, it's not fair. America did not declare war, but when you launch projectiles and missiles into another country, they could take that as if war is being put upon them. So that's something I think about, and I hope Iran doesn't do anything more than just what they did in the middle of the night, launching those missiles over UAE skies. That is concerning. So I don't know what y'all think about this kind of stuff, but America should have never been involved in this in the first place, and we wouldn't be here at all.
Exceptionalism idea that we can just bully motherfuckers around. Because I'm not no friends with Iranian people and none of these other countries. Right. But I swear to goodness, if you don't act like an asshole and then expect them not to do something back to you, that's just nonsensical.
Do you want to hear Bibi speaking right now?
I agree. Hell no.
Yeah, I did. Yes, I did. I can stream it if you want to hear it. Yes?
If you don't mind.
Sure.
I was trying to find it on the...
Yeah, no, I got it. Hold on.
I have Iranian family and I have Jewish family. I got skin in the game.
And you're also FBA, so go on.
I'm ADOS if y'all gonna shoot me at my FBA card.
Deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel seemed closer than ever. But then came the curse of October 7th. Thousands of Iranian-backed Hamas terrorists from Gaza.
No, you guys, I'm being told this is not live, so my bad on that. Sorry about that.
I mean,
apologies. Yeah, I said
today, right?
Yeah, but it's people are writing in there saying this is not right now. This is 2024, so I'm going to make sure before I pull anything back. Sorry.
Iran is one of the oldest civilizations on this planet. Shout out to Iran.
They might be the oldest, but they don't have the military wherewithal like the United States, but they are a country that would use non-conventional means, and that's what scares me, that they would, that is the part that, other folks that are older than me talked about, that they could use incendiary devices, other, car explosives, other things, or cause terrorism in this country through other means, or even cyber means. But those things are really, really concerning when they do turn to non-conventional means, and that means that military is very difficult for a conventional military to prepare for something like that. Really concerning.
One thing that I've been kind of thinking about, and I'm glad it hasn't been mentioned by any of these countries that we're dealing with at this point, is biological warfare, because COVID confirmed that we are not ready or prepared to respond to that type of attack, and it would be a lot more impactful and effective and harder to deter than just dropping a nuclear bomb or sending something that can be shot out the sky. If you can introduce it locally, get it here, I think that would be a real problem, and I don't think that's something we should rule out at this point either.
I think deeper still is the, nuclear warfare isn't off the table until war's off the table with these If they get theirs off the black market, they'll get theirs off the fucking black market. They'll scoop it from North Korea. They'll scoop it from fucking Russia. So there are no fucking rules of engagement if they're constantly lying to the world. So it's a regime change, yes, but it's our fucking country that deserves it, needs it, and must demand it on all cylinders.
Wait, there's a regime change going on?
Yeah, I'm saying yes. We keep talking about what's it going to take to impeach him, to get him out. They're trying to regime change other nations. Well, let's start with our own and then talk if there's anybody left in the world that we need to insert ourselves with.
So you want the citizens of the U.S. to overthrow President Trump? Is that what you're saying?
Both sides of the aisle, Republican, Democrat, independent alike. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That doesn't count as a regime change, does it? I thought a regime change was a little bit more intense than that.
You fire the administrations involved.
Calling for a civil war.
You wouldn't be firing the administration. JD Vance would become the president. You're not firing the administration. You're just removing one person.
We nominate new people altogether. That's a regime change.
So you're talking about overthrowing the government.
Yes.
So you want to overthrow it? Okay. And what's your process for that?
Diplomat